I built quite the following messing around with Donald Trump, and I like him. I'm not against Trump. He's not part of all that Illuminati stuff, which is super real. Okay?
Okay. This is Greg Locke, hate preacher, televangelist, megachurch pastor. He has 2.2 million subbies on Facebook. He likes holding book burnings at his church and talking about how much he loves Trump and hates the Illuminati. How's that for a Tinder profile? According to Greg, he's being sued by his neighbors.
This is a 40-page lawsuit from our neighbor over there. In case they can't get their damages out of the church, then they'll get it out of me. That's like getting blood out of a turnip, praise God. They have in here in the lawsuit every public time I ever said something about him on his rock beater. And it has things in there like, they're mad because I said, in quotation, he needs salvation. And don't come at me with all this. Well, you know, we ought to just all go surround his property and pray. He don't want that. Stop going over to his house trying to smoke a cigar with him like some of y'all been doing. We've tried that. We tried it.
I don't know if it's true or not. It's hard to tell with this dude. He doesn't usually flat out lie about things. He typically starts with a grain of truth and stretches it out of proportion. But I have a paralegal in my audience, Lord Falconis. He called the Wilson County Courthouse and they said they don't have anything on Greg Locke. So what Greg is talking about here is anybody's guess. Either way, the stated reason Greg talks about things like this is to radicalize his church. He wants them to feel like they're being persecuted so they get more and more extreme. He talks about the lawsuit at the beginning of this clip, but he gets into his love and adoration for Donald Trump near the end of the sermon. So let's start from the beginning and see what he had to say. Let's get into it. Greg starts out by supposedly reading from the lawsuit, which he kind of implies is a noise complaint to start, but a noise complaint wouldn't be handled through a lawsuit, it would be a police matter, so it can't be a noise complaint. Eventually, Locke kind of implies it's a defamation suit against him for things he said about the neighbor, but again, that doesn't really make any sense either, because by the end of it, Greg claims the ultimate goal is to get the court to order him to leave the residential area that he operates in. It's just confusing nonsense. It's like he wrote this whole thing up with just a little bit of legal knowledge, but not enough to make it seem completely real to somebody who's involved in the legal field. Anyways, Greg seems to be reading a statement of fact, which is a section at the beginning of a lawsuit that establishes relevant details about the case. Check this out.
Locke further gained social media attention when he openly criticized churches for closing during the COVID-19 pandemic, and he continued to hold services at Global Vision, despite restrictions on doing so. They can't restrict the church from meeting.
Yes, they can. This has been widely established in a billion court cases. You are free to meet outside, on Zoom, or inside with masks and social distancing, but he lives in a fantasy land if he thinks the courts don't have the power and authority to restrict his church from having a certain number of people meet in a single location at the same time. Let's keep listening.
They can't restrict the church from meeting. And by the way, you do realize that they gave us that building that was down there when we originally got here 10 or 11, 12, however long it was years ago, right? But on Easter of COVID, this is where this whole thing started. He came across the street, shook my hand and said, because you didn't cause on COVID, we'll be mortal enemies and I'll never have anything to do with you again and I'll have you shut down. And so this is about COVID, all right? This is about a nefarious plan of the enemy to shut down the church in America. But I can promise you one thing, he for dang sure ain't gonna shut this one down right here at 2060 Old Lebanon Dirt Road.
Oh yeah, this whole thing sounds totally believable. The lawsuit alone is super believable, but claiming the neighbor came down to his property and said to him, quote, "We will be mortal enemies because you didn't shut down during COVID. I'll have you shut down and have nothing else to do with you again," end quote, is so believable. Greg tells the most believable stories.
He's even gone so far as to state that individuals wearing masks will be asked to leave the services at Global Vision. Among other instances, Greg Locke is also known for having spoken at the U.S. Capitol building on January the 6th, 2021. You see where we're going with this? Stinking leftless. You Democrats ain't gonna shut this church down. I don't care who you are, all right?
And here's where things started getting a little weird. What does this have to do with anything? The final conclusion to the lawsuit, according to Locke, is that they're trying to get him to move to another location because this is a residential area, and he regularly rents his venue out to conferences that have thousands of people operating on the property and stuff. Which, by the way, is a totally reasonable request. But what does this have to do with anything at all? They just decided to talk shit about Greg in the statement of fact? What? I'm sorry, this whole thing has me deeply skeptical. And did you notice what he said at the end there? If you don't support what happened on January 6th, if you take the pandemic seriously, you're a leftist. I have no idea who this neighbor is or what his religious and political affiliations are, or how this is relevant to the case for that matter. But I promise you, just about the only people who support what happened on January 6th are Trumpist extremists.
Greg Locke and Global Vision also participate in frequent burning events at Global Vision property, where they burn items that Greg Locke declares satanic witchcraft connected to the Freemasons. By the way, this whole lawsuit is about because I ticked the Freemasons off. So Larry and all his Freemason buddies can take a hike as far as I'm concerned. I ain't scared of a one of them. I don't care how much stinking money they got. They ain't gonna bury this church, they ain't gonna stop this church, and they ain't gonna shut me up. Every Freemason in this town can bust hell wide open if they don't repent and believe the gospel. I ain't playing your patty cake nonsense. I said every Mason in this town can bust hell wide open if they don't get born again by the grace of God. I ain't playing with these satanic ritual abusers. I ain't messing with none of it. It's all about the Freemasons.
Did you notice what they did with the music there? When he starts getting emotional, they play the guitar in the background. It's subtle enough that you might not have noticed it if you weren't watching for it, but that's how propaganda works. Propaganda commonly uses music to heighten people's emotional states. I doubt any of this is planned out word for word, but the people in the background there probably listen for him to get emotional and start playing along with it. And about the Freemasons. He believes the Freemasons, aka the Illuminati, are a secret society that pulls puppet strings of everybody in a position of power. He thinks they're the cabal that controls the police and the judges and everybody.
Half the judges in Wilson County are Freemasons.
It goes beyond persecution complex. About a month before this happened, he announced a planned book burning on his property and claimed to have received an email from a man named Arch Stanton Sr. The email contained direct threats against Greg Locke's church. It said if he holds the book burning, the Freemason lodge this supposed Arch Stanton fellow is from, the Catholic diocese, the police, and other groups of people will be there to stop the burning by force. Supposedly, the guy was a member of the local Freemason lodge and well known in the community. Except the lodge he named, Lodge 642, has no record of a member named Arch Stanton. There's no Facebook page for the guy, no nothing. Even more interesting, the name Arch Stanton is from a movie called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I saw it when I was a kid, though it was many years ago. They were looking for money, which was supposedly buried in a graveyard. Near the end of the movie, they eventually revealed that the money is hidden in an unmarked grave next to the grave marked Arch Stanton. It was a fantastic movie, actually, an old gunslinger. The kind of movie a self-described alpha male like Greg Locke would watch and reference regularly. Anyways, the point is, I don't believe the email he received was real. Did he make it up, or did somebody else make it up? Who knows? But it's kind of weird that this is the second fake event Greg Locke has been party to within the span of a month. First, a supposed email from a fake person, and now a supposed lawsuit that doesn't seem to exist. Weird, right? The coincidences just keep coming. Anyways, Greg Locke was up on stage reading this supposed email from this supposed Arch Stanton person, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the email disappears right off of his phone.
He takes the next whole paragraph to tell me that it's a malicious fine for burning if we don't get a burn permit. We've already got all that covered. Okay, we don't care about your fines. I strongly counsel you all right, let me get back to it here. All right, if I'm lying, I'm dying. God strike me dead right now if I'm lying. Honey, come here to me, I ain't crazy. I'm telling you, God's untrue. God strike me dead right now if I'm exasperating the truth. I'm reading the email, and it is gone. I'm talking about right now. And I want to read the whole thing because I'm piss poor mad about it. Yeah, I said piss. I'm real mad about it now. That thing better jump back up here in a few minutes, and me and the Mason Lodge gonna have a time, praise God. I warned y'all before I got started, then they deleted my email and really pissed me off.
And Greg Locke blames the Freemasons. Apparently they control big email too. That's not how email works. And trust me, I know how email works. I was a software engineer for 6 years, and I currently run email servers for people. I can't even believe he tried to pretend they deleted it off of his phone like that. This was the thing that tipped me off that Greg was just straight up lying about the whole situation. Greg basically declared war on the Freemasons from that point forward, even though they obviously had nothing to do with any of this. He was obviously looking for a pretext to target them with stochastic terrorism. And here we are again. Greg is accusing the Freemasons of orchestrating even more plots against him. They're suing him with a lawsuit that probably doesn't even exist. Anyways, let's keep watching Greg talk about the supposed lawsuit.
Half the judges in Wilson County are Freemasons. I'll call for a mistrial and get one who ain't yoked up in that nonsense. Mad about Freemasons. I'm mad about them too, bunch of demon worshipers. I'm sick of playing patty cake with demons. I'm gonna get a shirt that says, I don't patty cake demons. You hear me? I don't patty cake demons. I don't patty cake witches either, and there's 2 of them in the room right now.
Don't play patty cake with demons? I don't think I've done that either, but now that he suggested it, I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. And if you were unaware, this dude has a weird obsession with witches. He insists they're trying to infiltrate his church constantly. Honestly, it's contrived controversy after contrived controversy with him. I think he's making all of it up, but the witch thing, I think he really thinks this is true. And he seems to be deathly afraid of witches. Hilariously, there's a protester that's been showing up to his church regularly and hiding tarot cards all over the place.
But then after Mass Deliverance, all the chairs are coming up because we're going to do something that's going to kind of get rid of the nostalgia effect of the tent meeting, but we have to do it. We're having some skid loaders coming here tomorrow. We're getting rid of all these cedar chips, and we're going with the turf all the way through the entire tent because these witches keep slipping in here, hiding stuff in the chips, hiding pentagrams and amulets and all kind of little infinity symbols and tarot cards. I won't be surprised. We pull that stuff up. There might be a full-blown Ouija board up under these chips. I don't know. They keep hiding stuff. It keeps my nerves tore up, and I can't make people keep going in here digging up every week. So we just gonna get rid of all the hiding places for the witches. Somebody say amen right there.
I love it. Love everything about it. Whoever's doing that is the hero we need, not the hero we deserve. Anyways, Greg lives in paranoia land 24/7, and he feels like his congregation isn't paranoid enough, so he does little theatrics like this regularly to make him think they're always a target by the demons and witches. Ridiculous. Anyways, let's keep listening to his description of the lawsuit.
The Wilson County Sheriff's Department frequently gets upward of 20 to 30 noise complaints on any given night when Global Vision is in operation. Well, first of all, we have a sheriff's patrol that stays here all the time, so number one, that's a lie. Number two, 5 sheriff patrols showed up when we did our burning, so they were on our side to protect us, not everybody else. And then thirdly, let me say this. Even the news media says they got 22 calls in a month, not 22 calls in a night, so that's a lie.
And here's where it starts to get weird and confusing. It started out as a defamation thing, remember? He said the neighbor detailed Greg Locke naming him from the pulpit and threatening him in the statement of fact in the lawsuit. So is this about defamation or what? And again, noise complaints would be handled through the police, not through a lawsuit. I guess I can see him using the statement of fact section of the lawsuit to describe the problem, but if they submitted that to the statement of fact section of the lawsuit, they'd have to be able to back it up with evidence. The lawyer would probably have to request records of calls from the police department detailing how many noise complaints they actually get. I'm not a lawyer, that just seems like the process they'd have to go through from the little knowledge of law that I have. But the part that really stands out about this is what he said about the sheriff's patrols showing up for his book burning.
5 sheriff patrols showed up when we did our burning, so they were on our side to protect us, not everybody else.
Does he think if the police show up to protect you, it means they agree with you ideologically? He doesn't seem to have any idea how this works. He doesn't seem to know the basics of social contract theory, or the ideas the Constitution was built on. The police don't have to agree with you, they have to protect you. Does he really not get this? I don't think he does, honestly. When he went through this whole Arch Stanton fiasco, he leveled a legal threat at the Freemasons in the area after supposedly receiving an email from them that supposedly said they intended to shut his book burning down by force. Listen to what he said.
We got a lawyer on speed dial. I'll sue every one of them in this town. I will be the owned mayor of Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And I'll ban every witch from this town. I'll tell you that right now, I will.
He doesn't understand. He thinks whoever's the most popular is a group that should have free speech. So he's trying to make his version of Christianity as popular as possible so he can ban everybody else's speech. This confuses the hell out of me. Like, what's going through his head? How did he arrive at these conclusions? Does he know literally nothing about the Enlightenment or freedom of expression? Keep listening to the supposed lawsuit.
The plaintiffs hereby request a temporary injunction and restraining order to be issued from the court so that GV can no longer operate any services upon its property. I don't care if you like my support of whatever president. It doesn't matter if you like the fact that I told people if you wear a mask other than the fact that you're sick or have cancer. That has nothing to do with any of this. This is the most non-American lawsuit that's probably been filed against the church. They're trying to shut our church down. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let you know, it's not gonna happen. The lawsuit has no teeth in it whatsoever. I'm not backing down.
Wait, does he understand the Enlightenment values and the principle of freedom of expression or not? I feel like he has no idea how any of this works. He's just heard a few buzzwords thrown around over the years and he runs with them. Doesn't even really understand what they mean. He knows if he uses the term un-American, he'll grab people's attention, so he throws it out as much as possible. He doesn't even believe in these ideals. He believes in forcing others to bend to his will, and he uses fabricated persecution to do it. So anyways, Greg moves on from the lawsuit and starts talking about how much he loves Donald Trump, bizarrely. Apparently, that was the whole point of this service. He just wanted to give us his confusing, disjointed take on this supposed lawsuit first. Before we continue, I wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check me out on Teespring. I sell all kinds of shirts and mugs and stuff on there. Or you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have my Fireside Chat channel where I talk about the intersection between religion and politics. I have my Telltale Unfiltered channel where I watch sermons and do long-form breakdowns of people like Jehovah's Witnesses, Kenneth Copeland, and others. Or you can check out my Telltale Reads channel, where I read books by extremists. We just got through reading Greg Locke's book, This Means War, We Will Not Surrender Through Silence. Now we're reading a book called Donald Trump, the Messiah, the Christ. Dude believes Trump is literally the second coming of Jesus. His reasoning gets absolutely wild. On top of that, every video stands independent of the rest. You can jump in at any point and listen to what they had to say. And I'll add the extra context from previous chapters if it's necessary. Anyways, check it out if that sounds interesting. All links are in the description. Okay, now let's check out what he had to say about how much he loves Donald Trump.
I built quite the following. Mess around with Donald Trump, and I like him. I'm not against Trump. Now.
Yeah, Greg Locke went through a period of time where he really did not like Trump at all. They had a major falling out back in January 2022 because Trump started endorsing the vaccine and Locke came out and publicly disavowed him.
Stop sitting on your butt and waiting for Donald Trump to do something in this nation. Stop it. Stop it. He gave the evangelicals a mighty voice, and I'm glad. Whether he runs or not is on him, not on me. But I'm sick of Trump worship in this church. He was lied to, and he knows it. And his arrogance won't let him change his mind. I'm telling you right now, on the authority of the Bible, if Donald Trump does not get out in front of this vaccine nonsense, he is going to lose his voter base in the next coming election. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. He needs to quit pushing this mess because the greatest president that we've ever known is going to be blamed for more deaths than we've ever seen, and his arrogance won't let him see it.
Locke claims he was contacted by the Trump administration after that sermon to ask if he was still on his side. I don't know what he said to him or if that's even true, because as we've seen, Locke lies about stuff pretty regularly, but either way, he hasn't really said a word about Donald Trump up to this point. Aside from claiming Trump is persecuted because his Mar-a-Lago mansion was searched by the FBI to recover stolen top-secret documents, this is the first mention of Trump since that. So I was pretty interested to find out what he had to say about him. Let's keep listening.
I love the man. I traveled on his buses for months without my family. I'm on Nancy Pelosi's hit list because of it. I'll go down fighting for people that are doing right. Now look, there's some people I won't go to heaven with that I'll go to jail with to save the nation. You understand that? I hang out with a lot of politicians that aren't born again. I'll go to jail with them. I just ain't going to heaven with them, but I'm working on that part too.
Okay, Nancy Pelosi doesn't have a hit list. I have no idea what he's talking about. He seems to incorrectly think Nancy Pelosi is running the January 6th committee, though she has basically nothing to do with it, and that he's a target of it, even though he hasn't been subpoenaed to testify. It's all persecution complex all the way down with him. And about spending all that time on Trump's buses touring the country, why? Why do it? He must know Trump doesn't give a shit about him. He must know Trump isn't going to heaven according to his belief system, right? Why does he even care what happens here? Why doesn't he just focus on going to heaven and getting as many people as he can to go with him? What is his obsession with Trump and politics all about in the first place?
But here's the one thing I want God to hold me accountable for. When I get in the room with him, I ain't got but one question these days. The last time I said something derogatory about him pumping that poison shot, within 2 days, the administration had done reached out to me. Are you turning? I said, I ain't turning on nobody. I'm a truth teller. So let me just thin you out for a minute and tell you something. I ain't got but one question for him. Are you a Freemason? Say I won't. I ain't got nothing to lose.
Oh, please. This obsession with Freemasons is seriously unhealthy, right? Is it just me? Why are they always on his mind? The Illuminati isn't real, Greg. It's a gigantic troll. How did he fall for this? It's like he'll fall for anything at this point. And is Trump a member of the Freemasons? In all seriousness, I doubt it. Being a Freemason necessitates caring about others and building a community, and I honestly can't imagine Trump caring about anybody but himself. If it doesn't directly help him in some way, then he wouldn't do it. Keep listening.
Say I won't. I ain't got nothing to lose. So here's the deal. I honest to God right now don't believe he is. That's why the system hates him, because he's a wrecking ball to the system. He's not part of all that Illuminati stuff, which is super real. Okay?
This is one of the funniest lines I've ever heard from Greg Locke. It's super real, okay? No, it's not. He lives in a fantasy land, but nobody will ever be able to talk this guy out of it. His mind is made up, unfortunately, and so are the minds of his followers.
So all I want is a man to look me in my eyes.
Sounds romantic.
Is a man to look me in my eyes and honestly evaluate the question coming out of my mouth. Because if he is as true to this nation as I think he is, and thank God I still think that, I'll fight a buzzsaw barehanded to help him save the republic. But let them claps die down. If I find out this is just a running interference for the left because you really on their team, and you doing backdoor deals with your fish fry, secret handshake, 33rd degree Masons, you better know this church won't ever be the same. Because I'll publicly burn the entire establishment down on both sides of the aisle.
Greg thinks Trump is automatically on the left if he's a Freemason. This is so weird. It's like he started with a premise and worked his way into nonsense land from there. And the 33rd degree Mason thing you mentioned a minute ago?
With your fish fry, secret handshake, 33rd degree Masons.
33rd degree Mason is an honorary title bestowed upon somebody who has done a lot of good for the community, but is otherwise uninvolved in the Freemason world. So I'd be willing to bet that Trump probably is a 33rd degree Mason. A lot of higher up, well-known celebrities have had that bestowed upon them. It's not even something you have to work for or have any involvement to receive. People just bestow it upon you, like an honorary degree from a college. How funny would it be if Trump really was a 33rd degree Mason? God, I hope he is.
And if I find out that I wasted my time fooling with people, leaving my wife, putting a target on my back, getting the haters that want to burn down our church, all for people that were part of what I was fighting against, you better know I'll raise such hell you ain't ever seen, crazy preaching. You hear me?
Does this dude think people are unhappy with him because of how much he loves Trump? Trump has nothing to do with it. I don't care if he likes Trump or not. My problem is that he lies about stuff constantly. He hates the LGBT community, looks for reasons to attack people, mixes politics in with religion non-stop, and gives a voice to full-blown QAnon conspiracy theories. Whether or not he likes Donald Trump is completely irrelevant to me. It's like he has no idea what's going on. The ideas this guy puts forward are deeply disturbing, not just because he doesn't seem to have any idea what's going on, but because of this too. He stuck this in at the end of the talk.
I've told you 1,000 times, if God's pleased and my wife's smiling, y'all in trouble. When God says hush and my wife says hush, we cool. I'll stop. But I'm telling you, I'm a different man this year than I was last year.
God is his guardrail. He said this in his book, too. Until God tells me to chill out and stop being a nutter butter, I'm gonna continue to get more and more extreme. Obviously, his wife isn't helping the situation. She's making it worse. God isn't there. Or if he is, he isn't speaking to Greg. Or if he is, Greg isn't listening. I don't know what kind of sign Greg would take from God, but there was that one time recently when a tornado ran straight through his church. Does that count as a sign from God? He uses it as a sign that other churches aren't in God's good graces.
The tent didn't fare so well, and so our security was there. They've taken some pictures. My wife's been over there. Some of our staff are already on the way. We have some men that help work on our tent that are heading that way now to assess the situation. It blew down the entire right side, which you have to understand, in a tent that large, the canvas is so heavy that what that did is then that pulled down the weight of the trussing and the stage. Of course, on the trussing was all of our speakers and our lighting and all of our gear and our rigging. It ripped through the screens, the 18-foot screens that we have. The stage was pretty much destroyed. The backdrop, the drum kit, all of that.
If that isn't a sign from God, then I don't know what is. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon, my Telltale Fireside Chat channel, Telltale Unfiltered, Telltale Reads, and all the other places you can find me. All links are in the description, as always. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.